There are some fascinating characters in baseball. Great guys, funny guys, some hated by everyone for very valid reasons, others who are controversial and split baseball fans to two sides, but there's rarely any players who get arrested multiple times and still happen to not just continue playing baseball, but become or stay beloved by the fans of at least that team and his teammates. And that's where a certain player from the Braves stands alone. On the surface, if I told you Marcell Ozuna was arrested for domestic assault and then again for a DUI about a year later, you'd immediately chalk him up as a bad guy. A bad husband, a bad teammate, a reckless person, and somebody surely out of the game of baseball, being either suspended for a long time or just blackballed by the league, with nobody wanting to take him on. But not only has Marcell Ozuna been arrested twice in the span of about 15 months for two pretty heinous things, and not only has he continued playing Major League Baseball since, but he's continued playing for the team he was on during both arrests, the Atlanta Braves. Why is that? How is that? I mean, we're talking about a man who laid his hands on a woman and proceeded to get behind the wheel a year later intoxicated? How is anyone like that comfortably accepted back into society, let alone a Major League Baseball clubhouse, organization, and fan base? Well, this is one of those situations where context couldn't be any more important. Now, to begin, is laying hands on a defenseless woman and committing domestic assault ever okay in any circumstance? No, of course not. There's never an excuse for that, and any man who does something like that isn't a real man. And is driving drunk ever okay? Obviously not. But there is a reason why Marcell Ozuna is still not only playing baseball, but playing for the same team he was employed by when both these arrests happened. And there's also a reason he's not only still playing for the Braves, but accepted by the Braves and loved by the Braves. Ozuna's journey began with the Marlins organization, and from the time he was signed by them in early 2008 all the way till he's become a Brave, there was no controversy to be found regarding him. He made his debut in 2013 with Miami, where he played for the next 5 years. His first full season in 2014 was pretty good. He showed some pop, was an above league average hitter, and he had a similar year in 2016 after a rough 2015. But 2017 was the start of something special. The start of Marcell Ozuna being more than just a pretty good bat in the Marlins lineup. He did get voted in as an all-star in 2016, but he took things to another level in 2017. He played almost every single game for the Marlins that year, hit well over 300, drove in over 120 runs, smacked 37 home runs, 14 more than his previous career high. I mean, he was genuinely awesome, but what's even more awesome is the fact that he finished 15th in the MVP race. Despite being so good, he wasn't even close to winning, but part of that was because of his own teammate who did win, Giancarlo Stanton. The Marlins offense as a whole was amazing. The outfield that had Stanton and Ozuna plus Christian Yelich was awesome, but unfortunately the greatness that was ended as soon as it began, with that entire outfield getting traded that offseason, including Ozuna to the Cardinals. So off Ozuna goes to St. Louis, where he'd be for the next couple of years, and his numbers did fall off a bit, but he was still a very productive hitter. He was good. Helped lead the Cardinals to the postseason in 2019, and again, like I said, zero controversy. Nothing to hate about the guy, other than maybe his defense on plays like whatever the hell this was. In January of 2020, that's when Atlanta brought him aboard on a one-year, $18 million deal, and of course that season didn't go quite as planned for anybody in the world, but Ozuna was awesome in the limited games baseball had that year, hitting the most homers and driving in the most RBIs in the National League, while finishing 6th in MVP votes and collecting his 1,000th career hit. He was great, so without hesitation, the Braves brought him back for 2021, but not just for 2021, signing Ozuna to a 4-year, $64 million contract. Ozuna was now a Brave for the long haul, and things were looking up both for him and the franchise, and in 2021, one of those things happened. The Braves franchise definitely did go up. Despite Ronald Acuna Jr. getting a season-ending injury, the Braves rallied, played really well down the stretch into the postseason, accomplishing 3 upsets throughout the postseason with the help of the 4 outfielders it took to help the loss of Acuna, winning the World Series. Unfortunately for Ozuna, he didn't really play much of a part in that run, and he didn't do much that entire year at all. 2021 was the last year the National League had the designated hitter, meaning Ozuna couldn't just DH, and he had to play in the outfield if he was going to play. But it was tough for him to stay on the field regardless. He started off 2021 very slowly with the bat, not providing much offensively before dislocating and fracturing a couple of his fingers during a game in Boston, getting put on the injured list. So that's not ideal, and just one day after the injury, things got even worse in a much darker way, as Ozuna got arrested for domestic violence. The original charges against him included felony aggravated assault by strangulation, something prosecutors later dropped in July, but he still faced misdemeanor charges of family violence, battery, and simple assault, getting an investigation launched into him by Major League Baseball, putting him on administrative leave. He wouldn't play the rest of the year, and so his season ended in May, as he'd eventually serve a 20-game suspension at the end of the year. Atlanta obviously didn't miss him with all the outfield help they got down the stretch. They won the championship, things were great, and as for Ozuna, he was back on the Braves to begin 2022. Now, immediately that seems weird, considering he committed domestic assault, and it was on video. Is that someone the Braves organization really wants to have around partially representing them? Again, let me reiterate that anyone putting hands on a woman is never okay, and I do think Ozuna deserved punishment. But to me, when looking at the video and understanding the other previous incidents that provide further context, this doesn't seem like Ozuna just trying to choke or hit his wife. It seems like a fight between two people in a toxic relationship that she also played a part in. Seriously, because just 1 year before this incident, Marcel's wife, Genesis Ozuna, hit Marcel in the face with a soap dish, something that cut his face. So what did he do? Drove himself to a nearby station to file a police report, and after a 2-week investigation, she was arrested. So skip ahead to this incident, and it makes a little more sense realizing why these two were fighting. Forget the specifics, it was clearly a toxic relationship that would get violent at times. And if Ozuna really was a danger to women, he would have done violent harm to his wife after she injured his face the first incident, hitting him with a soap dish as hard as she hit this baseball at the Trop. Yes, that's actually her here. But instead of being violent in that situation, Ozuna chose to leave the situation and file a police report, something that got her arrested and held accountable. In some cases, it really is as simple as the man was violent to the woman and he's an awful person, but it just wasn't that black and white with Ozuna's situation. And I think the simple observation is that these two should not be together for the sake of themselves and their children, and they're not. They've been divorced since. So he gets a short suspension, comes back in 2022 and addresses the team, apologizing for his mistake. As for his teammates, they welcomed him back with seemingly open arms. Acuna, who is also coming back from a shortened 2021 season, said it was good to have him back, calling him a good ball player, loosely bringing up the off-field stuff, but in a way where he just made it clear they were moving on. Ozuna discussed the importance of family and his kids with the media, hoping the public could forgive him. And off the 2022 season began. And it was terrible. Really quick, if you enjoy the videos and haven't already, consider subscribing. I'll really appreciate it. Thank you. Instead of the small amount of games Ozuna played in 2021 because of that injury and then of course what ended up happening, he played a lot closer to a full season and the numbers were just bad. He was awful. A below league average hitter, he just lacked much production at all. And then came criminal act number 2. In August of 2022, Ozuna was pulled over after going at least 90 miles an hour and a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit, was driving in multiple lanes, and when confronted by the police, this is what happened.
Please, driver's license.
I'm Ozuna from the Braves. Sorry, my dog.
That's all right. Hey, the reason I'm stopping you were speeding on this road, boss.
Really?
Yeah, you're going pretty fast.
He did end up finishing the season later, reaching a plea agreement the next year, but at this point it was hard to think of any Braves fans being on this man's side. Now, yes, I just went over a lot of the details on the domestic assault situation and why it wasn't that simple, but he still made a mistake while also providing an incredibly unneeded distraction for the team. After that, you need to be pretty spot on from that point forward to earn the trust of your fans, teammates, coaches, and everyone back. He was already on thin ice. On top of that, he was playing poorly and not producing, and then he gets a DUI. Braves fans cannot care for him at this point, but he still stayed to begin 2023. But with the way 2023 started for Ozuna, this was basically it. This was the breaking point, at least talent-wise. He provides a bad distraction because of the situation with his wife, then he drives drunk and tries to use the "do you know who I am" card with the authorities, although I will say when Ozuna said that, and I think we all know this, he wasn't trying to be cocky or arrogant. He seemed like he was just trying to be friendly with the cops, but just still a bad look to bring up who you are in that moment. He's driving drunk and putting his life and other lives at risk by doing so him being a baseball player obviously has nothing to do with anything. So things are just bad, and not only has he not produced for the last 2 seasons, he then starts off 2023 just as bad. Actually, no, he was worse. For the first month of 2023, Ozuna hit .085 with a 397 OPS. I mean, it was dreadful, and Braves fans had it, starting to boo him when he struck out.
Swing and a miss, and Ozuna's done, but Braves take the lead.
Things were just beyond low for Marcel, and if it was ever a time for the Braves to just move on from him, the time was now. And then everything changed. All of a sudden, Ozuna completely threw away what he'd been doing at the plate the last couple of years and started raking. He had an incredible month of May, the same for June. August was insane. I mean, Ozuna just crushed it the rest of the way, going from getting booed by his own fans and looking like he was about to get released by the team to getting MVP votes by year's end, finishing third in home runs on the team, hitting 40, which was just one less than Acuna. He played such a vital part in that juggernaut Braves offense, one that hit the most home runs in the history of baseball, doing the Flappy Bird celebration while rounding the bases. Fans were most certainly not complaining about him by the end of the year. And when asked about it, Braves general manager Alex Anthopoulos praised Ozuna and how good of a clubhouse guy he is and continued to be even through the struggles in the booze, continuing to be that same person, with other Braves players saying he's a good teammate, with Anthopoulos adding that Ozuna is beloved in the clubhouse, going on to also praise the manager Brian Snitker for sticking with Ozuna through the struggles, through the rough times, and still penciling him into that lineup every day to where he eventually took off. You rarely hear about the domestic assault case now, and anytime the DUI case is brought up, it's in more of a joking manner with the whole Ozuna from the Braves thing. Being a good player and getting your career back on track in that way definitely helps with this sort of stuff, but you also have to look at the way his teammates treat him, which I think is most important. They love him. I just mentioned Alex Anthopoulos calling him a beloved guy in that clubhouse. Ozuna and Acuna seem to have a great big brother, little brother type of relationship, and he already has a celebration with Chris Sale, someone who just got to Atlanta and is a pitcher, yet is doing a little celebration in the dugout when he starts. Chris Sale is not a guy who would want to associate himself with someone who is truly a bad and violent person, especially to women. Now, I know nobody picks their teammates, but Sale wouldn't be openly having fun with him like this if that was truly the case. None of them would be. He wouldn't be doing the Euro step with his third base coach on home runs. He wouldn't even be on the team. And to kick off 2024, Ozuna is just picking up right where he left off in 2023. The season is still very young, but at the time of this video, he's at the top of baseball in home runs, is hitting around 350, has an OPS over 1100, is being clutch, hitting a 3-run bomb with the Braves down to their final strike in Miami. He's putting up the best numbers so far on the Atlanta offense and is at a completely different spot than he was at a year ago. 3 strikes a year out, literally and figuratively, has never related more to a person's situation than Ozuna, it seems. He got strike 1 and 2 and was on the verge on the heels of strike 3. It seemed imminent. Despite 2 arrests and as many years of struggles on the field that had fans turning on him, the Braves organization and players stuck with him as he continued to stay beloved in the clubhouse no matter how he did on the field. And as a result, just like he turned this game around for the Braves in Miami, Marcell Ozuna really has turned things around for his baseball career and public persona, avoiding the status of a villain like no other.
What more can you say about Marcell Ozuna?